So the Department of Justice in front and center in all of this, and people are starting to ask questions. Some op-eds writing the Attorney General versus whistleblowers again. Throw Hunter Biden's plea deal in the trash. The IRS whistleblowers say justice sabotaged the investigation. So how can the agreement stand? You can bet Republicans are going hard for answers. Attorney General Merrick Garland is set to testify before the House Judiciary Committee in September. Jason Rantz, Seattle Talk Radio host, joins me now. The questions, are you kidding me? I mean, not only do we have a million questions for Hunter, but there should be even a million more for the president, who has maintained that he had nothing to do with his Burisma dealings, with his overseas dealings, with collecting millions of dollars due to his dealings. But yet now there's actual text messages on WhatsApp from 2017 to Harvest Fund Manager CEO Henry Zhou, showing that Hunter allegedly was with his dad to pressure Zhou to satisfy a pledge. I mean, that calls for an investigation of the president himself, does it not?
It absolutely does. And it also just doesn't make sense, this language coming from the White House. On the one hand, we're being told that Joe Biden is a terrific father. He has a close relationship with his son. He just wants what's best for him. But also he's saying, oh, we don't really have any substantive conversations or any conversations at all about his business dealings. I just don't buy that. It doesn't make any sense. And when you look at these whistleblower emails and text messages that we're now getting, they are damning. They're showing that the claims that the whistleblower made were never actually denied at the time that he was making them. They were not allowed to review Hunter's laptop. They weren't allowed to search the Delaware guest house where they believed some records were stored. And maybe there was nothing there. Maybe if they did the full investigation the way that they were supposed to, they would not find anything. But when you're telling me that they're being blocked from looking, that's usually a red flag. You know, the saying of where there's smoke, there's fire. This is an inferno. It kind of feels like it's pretty obvious that they are covering something up. And I think we need to, the American people need to demand that we get answers. And the media at large, it can't just be Fox News, have to step up and make these demands.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the whistleblower testimony disclosed last week alleges that basically the Justice Department manipulated the investigation into Hunter Biden. And what do you think the reason there was? Obviously, to spare him from more serious charges than the ones which he has now pleaded guilty to. In other words, he got off easy, and the Justice Department helped him. And the claims contradict Attorney General Merrick Garland's promise to Congress. Remember, he promised to Congress that there would not be, quote, interference of any political or improper kind in the investigation. So does he get impeached? He lied to Congress, did he not?
We have to find out if he actually lied to Congress. It certainly sounds like he did. And we're starting to see a pattern here, right? We have whistleblowers coming forward constantly, claiming that what Merrick Garland and what this administration has been claiming is just not true. He lied about whether or not they were going to prosecute the protesters who were threatening conservative Supreme Court justices.
Right.
They lied about how they were labeling parents showing up to school board meetings basically as domestic terrorists. Like, these are a series of events that show he tells us something and the truth is quite the opposite. And we have enough of a pattern to suggest that we need to move forward and investigate.
I guess I'm a terrorist. I've been called so many names in the book, but I've never been called a terrorist until that one. Republicans, yeah, exactly. Just added onto the list. Republicans are demanding, just to switch gears for a moment here, any and all information related to COVID origins. We would like answers on that as well. The push reignited after a redacted 9-page report showing concerns over the handling of viruses inside that Wuhan lab in question. Top senators say that report was just the tip of the iceberg and want all the information. Quote, this half-baked effort falls woefully short of the statutory requirements and undermines congressional intent. Now, the House side also making moves. There's a hearing now set for July 11th to talk to the authors of a specific scientific paper that struck down the lab leak theory back in February of 2020. The chair of the select subcommittee on COVID issuing his first subpoena for messages between those authors and COVID's top doctor, Anthony Fauci. Watch.
He said that Dr. Fauci prompted the writing of proximal origins, and he also said that his job was to focus on disproving the lab leak theory. You know, what is going on with that? Why should that be?
Okay, I want to talk about this letter. Okay, 9 pages. It's really 5 pages, and then there was a title page, and obviously you cannot crack down the origins of COVID in 5 pages. I mean, come on. Millions of people died, and you're going to tell me that 5 pages is sufficient? So what are they not telling us, and what are they hiding? Because any idiot will see right through this and tell you 5 pages certainly is not actual full disclosure. And the American public deserve more.
If they wanted us to know the full story, they would give us the full story, and
Right.
they're clearly choosing not to. And I think it plays into maybe some pro-China positions that some Democrats have. I would ask Democrats why they're the ones not standing up and demanding some answers. I don't believe that the Democrat Party, every single Democrat in Congress, is siding with China. So why is it that we are trying to carry their water? Why is it that we're doing PR for them? Why is it that we can't figure out where this came from? Because obviously the implications are incredible. There's going to be at some point another pandemic, right? And we have to figure out what we can legitimately learn from what just occurred. And if we can't even get to the bottom of where this virus came from, all we're going to do is repeat the mistakes that we made this last time in the future.
And it's not just the GOP demanding, the origin of COVID. Democrats have too, but a bill passed, and that deadline has then expired. So what are we waiting for? I mean, 2020 is when COVID started, and we're entering 2024 next year. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's no explanation. There's no excuse. Jason Rantz, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming on.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.